Hey class, this is problem 8.1. Okay, we have stock returns. A stock has the returns have the following distribution. So, if the demand of the company's product is weak, we have a 10% probability that it will be weak, and the rate of return will be negative 50%. Below average demand, there's probabilities 20%. And our rate of return is negative 5%. Average has a 40% probability with a 16% rate of return. Above average probability is 20% with a 25% rate of return, and strong is 10% with a 60% average rate of return. Calculate the stock's expected return, standard deviation, and coefficient of variation. So, the way we calculate the expected return, or R hat, equals the sum of the rate multiplied by the probability. So that's what this means, is sum rate times probability. So all we have to do is, and I've already done it here for you, and you can see the formula, it's the sum of the rate. So we start the formula with equals, and we have C2, right here is C2, times, that's what this little asterisk is, times the rate of return. So we have the rate of return times the probability, plus, that's where the sum comes in, plus the probability times this rate of return, plus C4, or this probability, times its rate of return, plus the probability, or the rate of return times its probability, and for the strong also, which is C6 times D6. You multiply and then add all those up, and you get an expected return, which is just a weighted average, is what it is, of 11.4%. Now, to find the standard deviation, equals the sum of the square root of the sum of R minus R hat squared multiplied by the probability. So here is our standard deviation, is the sum of R, okay, this is R right here, our rate of return, this whole column here, minus our expected return, which is R hat, all squared multiplied by the probability. Then we just sum those up. So I've done it already here for you, and I'll show you the formula. You have to use a parentheses quite a few times here, but we'll do parentheses, and then you do D2, which in this case would be our rate of return, minus D10, which is our R hat, or our expected return. And then close parentheses again. This little caret top means you're going to square it, or to the whatever power. So to the second power, or squared, and then multiplied by its probability, or C2. Now we add that, that's our sum right here, so we add that to the next probability, which is, the next rate of return, which is D3R, which is 5% minus 5%, minus our expected rate of return, all to the second power, times our probability, our C3, and so on for the rest of these. Our rate minus our expected return squared times probability, plus our rate minus expected return squared times the probability, plus our rate. Okay, then when we get to the end of this, then we're going to put our final parentheses in, and now we're going to take the caret top to the 0.5, or square root it all. We'll take the square root of all that to get our standard deviation. Okay? Coefficient of variation is just the standard deviation divided by our expected return. Okay? So we just take our standard deviation, which is 26.69%, divided by 11.4 to find the coefficient of variation, which is 2.34%. So that's how you find standard deviation, or expected return, standard deviation, and coefficient of variation.